Hello. Page numbers. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We are so thrilled to have Robin Berger with us again, who will be leading services for us while Cantor Whitner is enjoying the lake with his parents and his sister who came down to have some good time off. So we begin our service with Hine Matov.
How good and how wonderful that we get to be together, and especially together in one place, not waving to you on Zoom.
128.
How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov, umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Shalom alechem, salam aleikum. Shalom alechem, salam aleikum. Shalom alechem, salam aleikum. Shalom alechem, salam aleikum. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
We turn to page 124 in Mishkan Tefillah, our blue prayer book in front of you or underneath you, page 124, and please join me at the top for this reading. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured. A beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayers. We turn to page 120 for our candlelight blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, Shel Shabbat.
At Temple Emanu-El, we have a nice tradition in which the great Kaiser, who, by the way, went 128-0, is that correct? Okay, I thought it would work better. But anyway, he'll lead us in Kiddush in honor of his mom, Dorothy, of blessed memory. We rise together for those who are able, page 123. Sam, you've been working out, so don't crush the Kiddush cup, okay? Okay.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzevanu v'shabbat kasho ve'ahava u'razon inhilanu zikaron l'maseh voreshi ki hoyam tekilo l'mikra kodesh zedeshiyat mitrayim kivanu vakata Piatanu kideshta mikol hamim v'shabbat kasheha v'yohana radzon inhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Ashabot. Amen.
L'chaim.
Thank
L'chaim. Thank you so much.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. We turn to page 127, 127. And again, please join me. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure, but by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we care nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, and day of peace. We continue with Lachado D on page 138, 138.
Come, my beloved, and let's join together as we welcome Shabbat as one family. Lechado di likrat kala Pene Shabbat nekabela Lechado di likrat kala Pene Shabbat nekabela Shemor vezachor v'dibur echad Hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem ultiferet v'litchila Give it a try, Lachado D. We're going to learn this together. It will sound amazing when we sing as one. Here we go. Lechado di likrat kala Pene Shabbat nekabela Lechado di likrat kala Pene Shabbat nekabela מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Here we go. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. Join me, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
For those who are able, we stand and greet Shabbat HaMalkah.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה, בואי כלה. Here we go. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We turn to page 100. God's watching, no jokes. Page 145 at the beginning. Caleb, I hope you heard that.
It's not me.
We just had that Shabbat feeling. Page 145 at the bottom, and please join me. At least it's not the high holidays. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruits so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We continue with our Chetzi Kaddish right there on page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך ורתי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן.
We turn to page 146 and we rise together.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Am I awake? Am Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalalai lai lai, 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 yalalai lai lai.
We turn to page 149, 149, and please join me at the top. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. We continue on the next page with Ahavat Olam.
We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us, even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us, even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us, even when we are too embittered to hear. Try it with me. We are loved. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us, even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us, even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved. Let's try. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. Embrace us, soothe and counsel, as are the arms, the fingers, the voices, as are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. We are loved together. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and unending love. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love and our eyes. Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Please join me as we sing the Shema together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all of thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be upon thy heart, shall be upon thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by thy way, and when thou risest up, and when thou liest down, and when thou liest down, and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes, and thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, and upon thy gates, and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
We turn to page 157 at the top, and please join me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. There is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We continue on the next page, 158, our song of freedom and redemption, our Micha Mocha.
Ya ba ba bim bim bom, ya ba 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 bim bom, ya ba ba bim bim bom, ya ba 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 bim bom. Ay 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 ay, ya ba 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 bim bom. Ay 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 ay, ya ba 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 bim bom. Micha mocha, baili Adonai, Micha mocha, Nedar Bakodesh, Nora Tehilot, O Sefele, Nora Tehilot, O Sefele, Malechut HaRauvanecha, Bukeyam Lifnei Moshe, Zeu Miriam, Zezelianu Ve'amru, Adonai Imloch Leolam Va'ed. Give it a try. Yabba bim bam. Here we go. Yabba bim bim bam. Yabba bim bam. Yabba bim bim bam. Yabba bim bam. Ay 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 ay. Yabba bim bam. Ay 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 ay. Yabba bim bam.
Top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. We continue with our Hashkivenu 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu moshamreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from the hatred, sorrow, and pain. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim, lechaim, lechaim.
The top of page 163, 163, and please join me. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We continue with Vishamru 162.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
The middle of page 165. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer might not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. For those who are able, we rise together for our tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'emotenu. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor veHanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekone Hakol, Vezocher Chaste Avod ve'imot, Umevi gula lifnei vnehem, Leman shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer u'mashiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye metim atah rav lehoshia, Mashiva ruach u'marid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim chesed, Mechaye metim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech holim, Umatir asurim, Umkayem emunato lishenei afar, Micha mocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umchaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'amanata lehachayod metim, Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hametim. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh kadoshim b'chol yom yichalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We continue on the top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. We continue on page 179 at the top. And please join me. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praise are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. We continue with Shalom Rav 178.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam Tasim Leolam Tasim Leolam.
We take a few moments for silent prayer. At this moment in our service, we take time to think of those in our community, those who are in need of healing of body or spirit. On this Shabbos, we especially think of Linda Applebaum, Cindy Silverman Bailey, Sophia Berry, Katie Bates, Ronald Beasley, Kelly Bonds, Harold Seitling, Deborah Chargois, Karen Edwards, Edward Goldberg, Elaine Gross, Leonard Fred Halpern, Josie Hatfield, Evelyn Held, Donald and Maida Himmel, Patty Hirschberg, Norma Jill Jacobson, Corey Kessler, Lanny Klein, Bart Colbert, Jerry Lapidus, Susie Ovson, Nathan Ruha, Becky Seitel, David Siegel, Liz Slive, Chrissy St. Charles, Brenda Weinstein, Jesse Weisberg, and Elisa Rosemore Whitehead. For those who are with us this evening, if you are thinking of a loved one, a friend, someone who means so much to you, and you wish to share a name out loud, we invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours. For those names mentioned out loud and for those names that are still in our hearts, are Mishaberach 371, 371.
Mishaberach Avoteinu B'kor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Tomorrow night, we mourn the holiday of Tisha B'Av. And there's a few reasons why we mourn on this day. First, we mourn the destruction of the first temple that was caused by the Babylonians in year 586 BCE. We also mourn the destruction of the second temple by the Romans in 70 CE. But moreover, our rabbis also want us to mourn There was a rebel named Bar Kokhba who was a true hero of the Jewish people who again revolted against Rome, starting in 132, was successful but eventually was defeated by 135 CE, and so we mourn that and we mourn the falling of Beitar. Also, we're still mourning, Titus caused more destruction in Jerusalem, and finally, we also mourn and we expelled from England and Spain in addition to other calamities against the Jewish people. This is a deep mourning for the Jewish people. Technically, it started 3 weeks ago. Just like Yom Kippur, there is a 24-hour fast. We refrain from washing, wearing leather, and soaps and perfumes. We read from Megillat Eicha, which is Lamentations, and just like we were to go to a traditional Shiva home when someone is in mourning, we sit on low stools or on the ground reading from this literature. And so for the most part, early Reform Judaism in the 19th century did not like this holiday because they felt we did not have to mourn for the destruction of the temple because we didn't like sacrifices. But in today's Reform Judaism, and I want to be cautious here, I think they've lost their way in order for us to observe this holiday with secular ideas that really don't relate to the spirit of mourning. So the question is, why was the temple destroyed, especially in 70 CE? There's this historical answer that I'll briefly talk about, but then it's the rabbinic answer that will really challenge us. So during the first century, 2,000 years ago in Judea, the Romans engaged in a census that really irritated Jews in that area. The priesthood was horribly corrupt. Also in Caesarea on the Mediterranean Sea, they were mixing populations, so Gentile versus Jews, and there was conflict there. And finally, something that we can relate to, they did a massive blue-collaring layoff at the temple, which caused a lot of people to get angry, which caused this revolt. That's what a good college professor will teach you or in rabbinical school. But if we were to look in the Talmud gives us a more introspective and reflective answer as to why the Second Temple was destroyed. They call it Sinat Chinam. Again in Hebrew, Sinat Chinam, which translates to baseless hatred Jews had for one another. Okay, so the rabbis in the Talmud say that the reason why the temple was destroyed in 70 CE had nothing to do with corruption of the temple. It was because the way how Jews treated other Jews. And remember, for a theological mindset of a rabbi 19 to 1800 years ago, they're going to believe that God would never allow the destruction of the temple because God is the all-powerful. But the reason why they make any sense of this is because their sins, the way they spoke and engaged to one another, caused the destruction of the Holy Temple. In Hebrew, we call this a tochacha, a rebuke. Our rabbis during the Talmud, and even today, they want to remind us that the way Jews treat other Jews is really important. Regardless of movement, Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, Reconstruction, that we engage in Sinat Chinam, this will only lead to more calamities against the Jewish people. So the question now that I want to ask, what does this mean for us today? And is there any possibility that we can learn from this destruction 2,000 years ago? So for us to answer this question, I want to pivot once again from Sinat Chinam, again, baseless hatred toward Jews against Jews, into something else which I think is just as destructive. Two things. I think we have apathy towards other Jews. I think we've engaged in not caring. I'm going to make my case. And second, I think we're living in Jewish tribalism where our secular passions of politics have replaced Torah and mitzvot. And we'll get to that in a bit too. So about the apathy. So last week, I mistakenly spoke about the rally in D.C. It was poorly planned, and that's on another issue. But with a 500% rise in Jew hatred of the month of May and June, I was hopeful that the 6 days of planning, they could get a turnout, especially from the East Coast. 3,000 people showed up. For those who are wondering, in 1987, when Jews were protesting the freedom for Soviet Jewry, 250,000 Jews marched in D.C. 2002, during the second Intifada in Israel, 100,000 Jews showed up at that protest. But this march last week, it was sponsored by every single major Jewish organization, from the URJ to the CCR to the AJC, the ADL. Stand with us. They wanted to see this get done, but it didn't happen. And just for the record, J Street chose to be absent from this rally, something for us to think about too as well. But again, with this apathy. A month ago, we had a town hall, a rally against anti-Semitism, and Temple Emanu-El was the host, and this was brought by Federation. I think we had over 100 people in the sanctuary, and truthfully, I expected the sanctuary to be packed. This was well planned and enough notice. And a deep soul-searching would also say about this rally, I didn't see any of our young families standing in solidarity and trying to get all of the take-home messages for us to strengthen the Jewish people. This was truly painful again, so it's apathy. And finally, regarding what can we learn from our current destruction, this idea of tribalism, where political ideology, where we get our news from, I think this has replaced Torah for so many of us, that we don't want to show up for Jewish rallies because we feel that we'd be alienating our other allies, even though they may not like Israel, but the greater cause that we think about, whatever that may be, we don't want to hinder that relationship. I think those are the two main issues. And as I spoke about last week, it's not my passion to talk about the calamities of the Jewish people, but when I feel that we have an obligation, I'm going to. So then the next question I want to ask is, what do we do with this apathy? I can't cure the tribalism of the political theater. That's for another day and in a class, but not on the Bima. What do we do about the apathy? Is there any lesson that we can learn from Tish B'Av? So I want to tell two stories. One is personal, that happened 21 years ago, and one that happened this past Monday. 21 years ago, believe it or not, I was 18 years old and I was a senior in high school. I was already committed to play college tennis. At that time, my old high school tennis coach retired, whom I cherished, and we engaged a new coach. During my senior year, I started to notice that my coach started making truly inappropriate comments, which led to racial comments against African Americans, against the gay community, and then eventually towards the Jewish community. I wrote down every single thing that he had to say, and I want you to know something about West Bloomfield, Michigan. My high school tennis team, I think, had 15 members on it, 11 of whom were Jewish. Half the school board was Jewish. So it's the opposite ethos of Mountain Brook. So finally, I had enough of this. All the Jewish parents were talking, and the Jewish tennis players, that they could no longer deal with the said coach. I remember this moment like it was yesterday. I walked on the tennis court, and I resigned from the tennis team. I cleared it with my college coach, and she was proud of the stand that I was making. But I thought the team would resign out of protest because of the coach. And guess how many players resigned? few weeks later, I remember I was giving blood and the principal got involved. I remember my parents were deeply involved and the coach admitted to every single allegation. Actually, it was like 41 and eventually was dismissed, but I'm going to get to that in a bit. I was deeply concerned with the way the administration handled this. So my last recourse was to speak at the school board meeting. Again, this felt like yesterday, where I would address the school board, again, half of whom are Jewish, and tell them the way that I feel. I can tell you who supported me at that meeting. My parents and a dear friend of me of blessed memory showed up who wasn't even Jewish, T. Swissack of blessed memory. Nobody from the tennis team, nobody from the community, nobody from the Jewish community, and I stood there all alone. The coach was no longer renewed. In Michigan's high school sports, coaches have a yearly contract, so it's really easy to get rid of someone by not renewing their contract. So that was it. He was no longer coaching. I got over it, and I'm proud of the decision that I made today. But why am I talking about this instance? We all know what happened Monday afternoon, right? This is when we addressed the Mountain Brook School Board regarding what's going on, regarding diversity training, curricula, for all of our students to become really good citizens. It was a tough venue to speak. For those who went or for those who watched it on television, each speaker was given 3 minutes, and when they spoke, the school board attorney had an iPad with a countdown to make sure when their 3 minutes were up. So imagine speaking, and you have this massive iPad with a countdown. Now, I don't think I could ever give a Devar Torah if I had a countdown. I'm sure you'd love it for the high holidays, but nevertheless, I watched so many incredible speakers, and they put themselves in such a difficult position to try to convey an argument, and I got some phone calls. They said, Adam, it was so difficult to speak. I was afraid of the opposition, who later turned out not to be the issue. What was the issue? They did not get support from the Jewish community. Very few people called them and said, I'm so proud of you for what you did. Nothing. Almost a silence that I experienced 21 years ago. And my response to these people, the few, and I hate speaking in cliches because it's so cheesy, but I said, keep your foot on the gas. Don't give an inch. And when you evaluate yourself 20 years from now, you'll know that you made the stand. And I know there's Facebook posts that talk about this, but frankly, Facebook posts don't get anything done. It's so easy to make a stand on Facebook, and I'm being sarcastic. This person wanted to quit. Why continue to do it if I'm not going to get support? And I told her, you have to speak up. Because not only are you doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your children, what matter the most. But this is the apathy internally that I'm worried about. And I'm going to give you some numbers. There's recent polling that 33% of Jews under the age of 40, again, 33% of Jews under the age of 40 agreed that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people. That's an alarming number. Though a small number, but it's significant, under the age of 40, agreed with the following statement that Israel doesn't have the right to exist. I blame ourselves. I think we have failed to teach about Israel in a meaningful way throughout the years of the congregation, not ours, but in general. But the reason why we're getting these numbers is because of the vile hostilities that is happening in the universities, and you know how we feel about this. But these numbers will continue to get worse if we continue to be apathetic. I cannot stress that enough. For those who call me, Rabbi, then what do we do? So the first thing that we need to do regarding the Mountain Brook school system is show support for those who are getting involved. Don't make anyone feel alone. And again, posting in solidarity on Facebook is too easy and frankly doesn't do anything. congratulate people, be there for them, be a voice, engage in empathic listening. Also, I want all of us to still have hope. Despite these horrible numbers regarding those Jews under the age of 40, the American Jewish Committee reporting this, that affinity between American Jews and Israeli Jews is incredibly strong. 60% of American Jews think being connected to Israel is important to their Jewish identity, and 75% of Israeli Jews see that those Jews who live outside the land of Israel is vital to the future strength of Eretz Israel. When we welcome Yom Kippur and we reflect and engage in this introspection, my job is to tell you is make Judaism a priority. Have that courage. Our rabbis also teach us that the reason why we have to mourn tomorrow night goes back to the story of the 12 spies. And remember, Moses sent out 12 spies from the tribe to see if they can reconquer Eretz Israel. 10 came back saying we couldn't do it, but Joshua and Caleb said, we will march on and we will win. Beat apathy by being Caleb and Joshua. Continue to celebrate the good. Last Saturday night, we had over 150 young Jews out for You Belong in Birmingham and Next Gen. And I told Danny Cohn that seeing this was hopeful. The Jews together from ages 40 to 20, which was interesting in itself, but they were out and celebrating being Jewish together. Come on the hike tomorrow. Tomorrow we read from Parshat Devarim, and this is the first parashah of the last book of the Torah, the book of Deuteronomy. And Moses begins this parashah by the repetition of the Torah, reminding us all that the Torah is good for. So, what a perfect parashah to get us on the path. We should mourn tomorrow. We should mourn the calamities of the Jewish people, but all the more so we should mourn the apathy that continues to plague us internally. But when Tisha B'Av comes to an end on Sunday night, be hopeful, be courageous, love Judaism. Shabbat Shalom. For those who are able, we rise together. Aleinu 586.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום ושבעת אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Shemo Echad.
We turn to the top of page 596. When cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear, but if we dwell too long on our loss, we embitter our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction he learned the law of God, and in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn to keep silent in their presence, and when a word will assure them of our loved one, of our love and concern. Thus, even when they are gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live as, in their higher moments, they themselves wish to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. On this Shabbat, we recall the yortzites of Judith Todd Abrams, Leon Ayland, Ira Beck, Faye Lewis Berman, Alvin B. Bressler, Fanny Brown, Regina Capilouto, Harold Kaplan, Rebecca Scherner, Julius Davis, Rose Shapiro Eisenberg, Phillips S. Feld, Libby Friedman, Sid S. Friedman, Lena Kaufman Goldberg, Shelda Gross, Emma Wellman Hart, Abraham Solomon Heffler, Julius Hirsch, Esther K. Cardis, Louis Katz, Jerome Corman, William Lefkowitz, Samuel W. Levin, Harold Philip Lishkoff, Robert David London, Mary Barbeau Majot, Bessie Levinson Marcus, Herman Mazer, Judy Camp Miller, Herbert Morowitz, Helen Needle, Harold A. Nelson, Marilyn Lichtenstein Nelson, Isidore Newmark, Jenny Rose, Evelina Otis Roseman, Morris Scher, Harry Schneiderman, Shura Chernetsky, Dorothy Tannenbaum, Joyce Vincent, Catherine Virago, William Bill Winston, and Sarah Zeldin, and our heartfelt condolences on the recent passing of Carl Ayland, Dr. Gary Cohen, and Rita Mendel. We rise together as a holy congregation for a Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yikadal, Bikadah, Shemei Rabbah, Bioma Divrach, Hirote, Vamlich, Malchute, Bechayachon, Ivyomechon, Uvchait, the Colt Beit Yisrael, Bagalah, Uizman Kariv, Yimru, Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevarach, Lialam, Olamei Almaya, Yit Barach, Vishtabach, Hit Ba'ard, Hit Ramam, Hit Naseh, Vita Dar, Vita Lev, Vita Lal, Shebeit Akud Shah, Le'ela Minkol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechamata, Damin Ram Yomah V'yimru, Yehei Shlama Rabbamin Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'ekol Yisrael V'yimru, Amen. Osei Shalom Bimromav, Huya Sei Shalom, Aleinu V'ekol Yisrael V'yimru, Amen.
Osei Shalom Bimromav, Huya Sei Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Amen. Osei Shalom Bimromav,
Wait, before you go off to dinner, just a few announcements. Thank you, Robin Berger, for such an excellent and meaningful and spiritual time. I so love having you. The second announcement, Temple Circles is recruiting leaders for the fall session. You can try something new or something you already love by teaching and leading a circle. Let Monica, who's over there, know by July 31st if you want to lead a circle. I got to tell you, when I heard about it 2 years ago, I was interested, but it's arguably one of our most successful engagement programs. Marilyn, I know you're nodding at me, and Jen. Okay. Second, our temple directory is available and online soon, in print. More details to follow. If you have any questions, call Catherine. And finally, this is your homework for next week, and your homework is to tell other Jewish members in the community to please do this. Joel Piasek over there, he and Lane Held are going on a major visionary process with the Jewish Birmingham Foundation, and there is an online survey. It takes 15 minutes. The questions are great. We need this information to see what to do next. I can't stress this enough. Everyone in this room needs to fill it. Everybody in the household can do it. A household does not represent one, right, Joel? Okay, so do it, and then tell 5 other people to do it, okay? I'm going to find out if you don't do it. I have my way. Shabbat shalom, everybody.